Nigeria has officially joined BRICS to become the 9th partner country with Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Thailand, Uganda, and Uzbekistan. BRICS, an intergovernmental organization originally an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, and China, had expanded in 2010 to include South Africa. It subsequently accepted other countries like Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, and the United Arab Emirates into its fold. The partner country category was established at the 16th BRICS Summit held in Kazan in October 2024. During the BRICS Summit held in Kazan, Russia, from October 22 to October 2024, it officially expanded its alliance, adding 13 new nations as partner countries, though not as full members. The countries are Algeria, Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Nigeria, Thailand, Turkey, Uganda, Uzbekistan, and Vietnam. Some experts have raised concerns about what it means to be a partner country. They have also questioned if that is the best for Nigeria's standing globally. Joining us now on this show this morning to discuss the benefits Nigeria will enjoy with its inclusion as a partner country is Professor Efem Ubi, Acting Director of Research, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, NIIA. Welcome to the morning show, Professor Ubi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bati.
Morning, Prof.
Morning.
Why
nice
partner country? Why not a member country? And then two, what do we stand to gain from joining BRICS? What do we stand to lose?
Thank you very much. I think first we must start from somewhere. Right from when it was established in 2009, and when Nigeria wasn't part of the original BRICS. And so over the years, we've been looking for ways in which to get into the groupings of these developing nations. And so we missed an opportunity, the last BRICS meeting, I think the 2023 BRICS meeting. And so this particular partnership countries membership, I think it's a beginning of a more successful relationship with these groupings of developing nations. And as we know, BRICS is actually a huge economy. When you look at the economy of these members, China, you know, is a very huge economy. Brazil follows with India. You know, I would like to say that this economics put together contribute about 50%, will contribute about 50% of GDP by 2030. Now, it's estimated to be about 37.3% of GDP in terms of global output. China alone accounts for about 19.05%. Also, India accounts for 23%. Now, put this together, you know, this is almost a quarter of the global economy, you know, and so this is a huge market even for Nigeria. So the advantage is that now we are going to have an expanded market where our resources, whether it's finished product as well as commodities, will be sold at the international market. And aside that, you know, Nigeria's foreign policy has been based on multilateralism. And this is a groupings that are also talking about a multilateral world, you know, because it is easier for countries to fight global challenges in a concerted effort than as individual or independent countries. You know, we find ourselves, you know, in a world where some countries are talking about a rule-based order, but on the contrary, we find ourselves in an order in disorder. And so, you know, the BRICS, who actually are these groupings of developed countries, which we call collectivization of the international community, is actually coming up, you know, to make sure there's equity, equality, parity, and justice within the international system. And as you know, these are countries that have been fighting for this form of equality internationally. Now, if you listen to most of the speeches of all these presidents, they are focused on it's a wall of equality, where irrespective of whether you're developed or you're underdeveloped, you're developing, you must have an equal relationship, sovereign relationship across the globe. And so now these are also countries who are fighting for the reforms of multilateral institutions, especially the financial institutions, which Africa wasn't part of when it was created at the Bretton Woods. And so Nigeria also is at the forefront of looking for a new world order, economic world order. If you remember, when our president was elected at the first, in 2023, his first outing was at the Financial Pact meeting in France, which is a way of looking for a new global financial pact for especially the developing countries or countries of the South. We're also talking about it as a negotiating bloc. BRICS is very powerful at the WTO, whether at the United Nations. And as a matter of fact, you know, these are countries that are coming together for the good of the developing world, as which Nigeria is going to.
But the other side of it, the other leg of the question,
okay,
does this place us at any disadvantage, particularly in terms of our relationship with other major Western powers?
Okay.
Because I made a point that, okay, if you are romancing with Russia, China, you know, and some of these other countries, I think Iran is also one of those, you know, partner countries. Does that put us at any disadvantage in terms of our relationship with other partners?
Not really. You know, international relations or interstate relations at the international level is based on interest. What's your national interest? I think national interest comes first before any other thing. Now, in fact, you can't even put your eggs in one basket. So in as much as you're relating with your traditional partners, you also need to look for relationship with the emerging powers, which the BRICS is actually depicting. And so I don't think there's any disadvantage, irrespective, disadvantage insofar it does not affect your national interest. What matters most is interest in the international system. And so I don't think that would be or pose a problem. The only disadvantage I will see, but not really a disadvantage, is the fact that we need to build our economy. We need to be a manufacturing economy. We also need to be able to trade in terms of finished good, because you know when your produce or your product has an added advantage, it could add more value, you know, into your revenue and all that. So, and it also might come out with trade deficit will still persist in as much as we are not developed, and I mean in terms of industrialized. And
okay, so as a partner country, is Nigeria not at a disadvantage? I ask because when you look at countries like South Africa, who originally made up, BRICS, and other countries who've gone ahead of us, some of them as full members, it looks like, as permit me to use this word, even though people are now reluctant to use it, the giant of Africa, Big Brother, we're now coming in as partners, which means that if we don't have full membership, we won't participate in governance of BRICS. We cannot have any effect on policies. We cannot. Our advantages in terms of the economic benefits are limited. Is this the right move to make, or should we be looking for other trade partners? Also, with the coming in of President Donald Trump later on today as President of the United States, and how he's so adverse to BRICS, how will this work out for us? Is it not a disadvantage? Is this a good move for us at this time?
I don't think the disadvantage actually outweighed the advantages. What we should be looking for, I think this time we should focus much more on what we stand to benefit, whether within the group or with individual countries like China, like India, Brazil, South Africa, and others, Egypt and the rest. First, don't also forget that Nigeria is a huge economy. So everybody is scrambling for Nigeria.
No, it doesn't look like it. We pleaded with them almost at the last BRICS summit to be members, and we're denied. So it doesn't look like they're scrambling.
Well, but I mean everybody. It might not really necessarily be BRICS, but actually BRICS, the last meeting, when there was a visit of the government, Nigerian government to China, I think that was the vice president who went. That was when the assurance came that Nigeria was going to be invited into BRICS, And so I feel that with our economy in terms of which is about, I think, 362 GDP, in comparison with other huge economics in Africa, I think Nigeria is doing very well. Nigeria is a huge market, like I've first said. Yeah. Nigeria is about 3/4 of ECOWAS market. Nigeria is about 1/4 of Africa's market. And so with this huge economy and market, I think there's no country that will want to move away from involving Nigeria in many international economic relations. Yeah. And aside that, let's also take into consideration our population. We don't just have population, but we have good, credible population. Yeah. We have a lot of resources here, both human and natural resources.
Exactly. So sorry, with these things you just mentioned, it looks like Nigeria is at an advantage on its own. Do we need to join or be partner members with BRICS, partner nation with BRICS, to trade with any of these countries? I know you say that the advantages far outweigh the disadvantage, but it's a bit difficult to understand that because
in a state of anarchy, many states fear for their independence. Now let me break it down. What that means is that you cannot be in isolation. You can't be a standalone in an interdependent world. And so you need to embrace a lot of groupings, whether it is the groupings of developing countries, as well as the multilateral institutions like the United Nations, IMF, World Bank, and others. Don't forget that even prior to when BRICS was formed, there was also the MINT countries. Yes. There was also the N11, yes, which Nigeria was actually mentioned in those, and the VISTA countries. Yes. And so, what if the VISTAs, the MINT, and the N11 was from Nigeria would have still been part of it. So you can't survive in isolation. It's an interdependent world. You can't be without being a part of a multilateral organization. In fact, many of the problems, climate change cannot be solved by a nation. It has to be with other partner countries.
BRICS has been looking for a currency.
Yes.
They formed one.
Yes.
But most of the trade, even among those BRIC nations, still being done in USD. That's the dichotomy. Also, international payment system is another one. Mm-hmm. Saudi recently and Russia were looking for an alternative, to a payment gateway after the war. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's your take on that? Thirdly, what is this going to do as regards our relationship with America? And I asked that for a reason. A couple of years ago, Nigeria tried adopting a swap system with the Chinese renminbi.
Yes.
The Americans didn't find it funny with us. Mm-hmm. So this frolicking we're doing with BRICS, is it to our favor? Do we really even need BRICS to trade at a time where, when you look at it, most of the trade will still be done in USD? Can't we stand alone, like Ayo was saying? I mean, I think these are the cardinal factor and the cardinal points in this conversation. What's your take on this?
My take would be that you still can't stand alone in an interdependent world. Now, when you look at the issue of the convertible currency that dominates the international system, we actually have seen over the last couple of years that it's a big problem. And that is why even the last meeting, the 16th meeting, was focused on establishing their own currency. Again, don't forget that the advent of the new development bank, the BRICS Bank, was also as a reaction to the international economics system that is in disfavor of the developing countries. And so now the question of looking for a new currency that will replace the de-dollarization of the convertible currency, it's the fact that this has been long, not just today. I remember some few years ago, around 2008, 2009, the Chinese were also complaining that they should add their own currency into the convertible currency. And aside that, they started having a lot of crises with the United States then. Now, with what happened in Ukraine-Russia crisis, that again brought to fore why the convertible currency shouldn't be number one, which is the dollar, shouldn't be number one. Other currencies should be. And you talked about Nigeria's trade relations with China. The first currency swap deal was signed in 2018. By last year, it was renewed again, and the basket has been increased and all that. So now, that is one of the challenges anyway. I would like to say that's one of the challenges, moving away from the dollar.
But how fast will this be? As it is today, the dollar is still the mainstay. Even the euro that came up over 20 years now, has not been able to find his footing vis-a-vis the dollar. Since the Bretton Woods time, it's been the dollar, which were the gains of even America making a strong point in after the Second World War. So the global economy tilted towards them. They hold the ace in the Bretton Woods conversation. So 20 years on with the Euro bloc, the Euro currency is out there, it's not been able to hold sway. Is it the BRICS that will start today? When is it going to hold sway?
There's no crime in trying. The question you should be asking yourself, why are we so subjugated? Why is the South so subjugated? Why is the South so dominated? Do we have to remain in that light?
No, because
we need to move. We need to move. We need to.
Have we advanced in science? Have we advanced
these are all part of it. These are all part of the argument.
As of today, most of the patents still come out of America. And that's why he still
what we are saying, it took China just within a short period of 40 years after opening up to get to the point it's got. It took China 126 years for modernization to take place. Now, it's a gradual process. We'll get there. But the thing is that we all need to be focused. We need to rejig our foreign policy, not just Nigeria, countries of the South. We also need to have a strategic agenda of engagement. Have you not always wondered, when you look at African countries, none, maybe when one or two might have a foreign policy of engagement with the United States or Britain. Documented. Foreign policy is action or inaction. It's not to meet a certain objective. So I think for me, I would think that this is just the beginning of the end.
Okay, Prof.
So
one major thing that is happening in the world today is the return of Donald Trump.
Okay.
They call it Trump 2.0.
Yes.
And analysts are saying this will have implications for the global order.
Okay.
And Trump has made it very clear that he's coming there to just see what he can do to the global order for the interest of Americans, to produce results for Americans.
Okay.
Now, what will be the implications of a Trump presidency for BRICS, for example? Because Trump, with his American exceptionalism, is not going to fold his arms and say, oh, the BRICS countries, can go ahead with an alternative payment system that would, upstage the American dollar. Two, WTO. The attitude of Trump towards the WTO. The agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the United States.
Okay.
These are some of the things he says he's going to take a look at. NATO is another international organization that he wants to touch. The Paris Climate Agreement. So what do you think, a Trump presidency will be like for the rest of the world in terms of trade? One of the things he intends to do today is to announce 10% to 25% tariff on all imports into the United States. And that will affect global trade also. What do we expect seeing forward? Negotiations again, or expansion of the markets, or what?
We expect everything. Well, you see, we expect everything. Trump 2.0, it's coming, not just for himself, but for American interest. An American interest will remain, is a constant, irrespective of who the president be, whether it's from the Conservative Party, the Republican, or the Democratic Party, it will still remain. America's foreign policy does not really change, but the modus operandi changes. Now, relationship, let me use Africa, which is our continent. American relationship with Africa, what we have understood over the years is the fact that they have their own strategic partners, and that they cannot do away with. They have their own, they have foreign policy engagement with other countries, but they have strategic partners. Now, so Trump will not do anything that is contrary to American national interest. But what we should be looking at now is, how do we measure up? What countries in Africa and the developing world should be looking at? How do they measure up? Don't forget, Trump had a lot of issues with the Chinese. Even when he left, Biden also had issues with the Chinese. Trump is coming back. In fact, in his campaign speeches, he made mention of China several times.
Biden didn't have problems with Cuba. Trump has problems with Cuba.
That's what I'm telling you.
He's
Once you have to
problem.
understand about foreign policy, is that there are. It's an inside-out approach. That means your foreign policy could be your domestic politics determines your foreign policy. Now, the external environment also determines your actions or inactions, as well as leadership idiosyncrasy. So, leaders, the elites also determine. It depends on what the nations is looking for, or what the elites, the existing elites, the extant elites are looking for. And so these three factors determine foreign policy. If Biden never had a problem with Cuba, Trump has a problem with Cuba. And it has been like that in history. But one thing we should understand is that one is a constant, which is global transformation and global power rivalry. This you cannot do away with. It has been there in history. As nations rise, nations fall. And there's nations, there are declines of nations, and there are also rise of nations. Now, don't forget that every nation, the superpowers are also trying to maintain their own status quo ante. And in doing that, they will also look for ways to undermine the emerging and rising powers or emerging economics. And so this is a constant. We expect anything, but be prepared for what is to come.
All right. I like that word preparation. So yeah. Nigeria, how can we best prepare for a Trump presidency? Because we have to face facts. He's going to be perhaps the most powerful figure on the political scene, on international scene. So it's important for us. Everybody is going there with what they can get. The tech giants know what to do. They've gone to visit him in Mar-a-Lago before he became president. And of course, nations are looking to see how they can best position themselves as trade partners with the United States of America. So how can we, as a nation, prepare? And then don't forget, as part of this BRICS conversation, that Trump himself has threatened huge tariffs against BRICS. So what a time for us to join.
Not just BRICS, all countries.
All countries, including, Canada, Mexico. He's talked about China, so he's just on a tariff war.
Reciprocity is the catchword in international relations. If you impose high tariffs, you impose high tariffs also on their products. I think this is where...
Can we afford to do that?
Why not? Okay. You are an independent and sovereign nation. Okay. You determine your own policies. You're right. If they increase their tariffs, you increase your own. It depends. For instance, you could see the trade war between them, between the United States and China. This is what has been going on. You increase, they increase. At the point, there will be, like Dr. Bate say, a point for negotiation. Yeah. Diplomacy, it involves tact, involves shrewdness. And this is what we must learn to do as individual nations. But let me say this, that we are quite prepared. The way we are really prepared. We have dealt with these countries since independence. And I know we'll also continue to deal with them. You can't run away from reality. But you now have to be very, very strategic in how you engage these countries, how you are going to engage Trump. I don't want to say it, but Trump is one president that sometimes you wonder why he talks the way he talks. But then you too should be very diplomatic, in terms of how you react, in such a way that you are looking for your own benefit. You maximize your benefit, your interest first.
I want to come in here.
Okay.
Is this BRICS not a bunch of hypocritical people? And I'll tell you why.
How do you mean?
I'll tell you why. You have nations in BRICS that are leading BRICS, like Russia and China, that have empire ambitions. And I talk about hypocrisy because you talk about equality.
Yep.
Which I don't see, which I see as another committee to be able to subsume the lower nations. I'll give you one instance.
Okay.
China has something called Belt and Road Initiative under his initial Silk Road, which was under the Ming Dynasty back in the days, which is a proliferation of empire. Do projects, connect to nations across that, have your dominant influence. Russia is also doing the same and extending with Wagner all over the African continent. Russia is the reason for the chaos in Sudan as we speak. Today now, they've been able to push out the RAF because Russia is now supporting Al-Banam because they want to set up a military base there.
Okay.
So where's the equality you claim in BRICS? This is not a bunch of hypocritical juggernauts trying to subsume the smaller nation. Because Russia cannot claim that it's in a BRIC with African country and is causing chaos, subsuming lower African countries, stealing gold from Sudan, playing the two factions in the Sudanese war, and nobody can stand up to Russia.
No, fine. What I will ask is, whose fault is it?
Oh, but you talked about equality.
I'm coming. Whose fault is it?
You talked about equality.
But internationally,
Is that equal?
the charter.
Wait till United is a United Nation.
Every nation is equal. But, capitalism will say, give every man an equal opportunity to show how unequal every man is.
So we're not equal.
No, excuse me.
No
we can't be. We can't. There's asymmetries. There's asymmetry in international relations.
The UN Charter talks about equal sovereignty of states, but in reality,
there's no equality.
realpolitik, states are not equal.
So
But
there's no equality in BRICS.
that is why the
So there's no-
groupings of developing countries, the collectivizations of developing countries, are actually looking for that equality, that parity in the international system.
BRICS is not
But I'm
equal.
sure we'll get there. I think we shouldn't just be pessimistic.
Tuvalu, Tonga, all those states, they have seats in the United Nations, but is Tuvalu even equal to Nigeria? Yeah, as
That's what
perfect
I'm
as
saying.
Nigeria.
As a
is.
sovereign nation, yes.
But as a sovereign nation, you
Yeah.
get a seat at the table.
But in terms of wealth,
terms of the details,
in terms of wealth, no.
the world is governed by inequity. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Professor
thank you,
Ubi.
thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.